This is Get Savvy, the podcast for people who want to claim back their time through the power of delegation, productivity, and automation. Welcome to this episode. I'm your host, Teesha, and I'm interrupting our regular programming as of late to talk to you about leadership today. We've been talking a lot lately about AI and automation because things are just changing every day in that space. And so it's been quite important to us to keep you up to date with things that we're learning. But as we've been speaking about in these episodes, the purpose of using AI in your business is not necessarily to eliminate the people from it. So the other really important aspect of business is the people. So today I'm going to talk a bit more about that. And what's prompted this is I've had quite a few conversations lately with business owners and even just some people that are new into managing people who are discovering some of those oddities that you learn as you come into your leadership role. So I wanted to, give some tips today, share some lessons that I've learned since I've been in a leadership role. Some things that maybe I wish I had known beforehand. So if you're new into leadership, thinking about getting into management, people management, or maybe you just want someone to share the feelings with, then this will be a good episode for you. So let's get into it. The first one is that you don't have to know everything yourself and you don't have to do everything yourself. So when I was first in the GM role, I had come from the creative side of Strictly Savvy. So I was the creative team leader, and that was what I knew. I understood a little bit about the admin and EA side of things, but the bookkeeping side was a complete mystery to me. I had no idea what the work was or how the team did the work. So immediately when I went into the GM role, I thought, okay, well, I need to learn how the team are doing everything so that I can understand them and be able to have conversations with them about it when they have problems. But thankfully, my usual co-host, Joe, said, you don't actually need to know all of that to be a good leader. I didn't believe her at the time, but it's definitely true. I am 5-6 years down the track now into the GM role, and I still don't know bookkeeping and I don't do bookkeeping. But the curiosity is good, and obviously proximity-wise with having conversations with the team, I understand a little bit more now. But my team are the experts. They are good at what they do. So I don't need to be good at their job. They need to be good at their job, and I need to be good at leading them. So if they come to me with an issue, I don't always need to be the one that has the answer to it. Because that was the other thing that I had a bit of nervousness around, was that if they asked me a question about bookkeeping or whatever it was, that I wouldn't be able to answer it, and I needed to be able to answer every single question, or that was what I was telling myself. But that's just not true, because there are other amazing people in my team that if one team member doesn't know an answer to something, then I can help put them in touch with someone that I know does know the answer to that question. So yeah, you don't need to know everything. You don't need to do everything as well. Everything that comes across your desk, especially I think when you're new into leading or owning a business, there's this feeling that, okay, well, I need to do a bunch of everything. And so, yeah, anything that came across my desk, I felt like I had to have an answer for it or know how to do it or complete it myself. But again, my team are experts. My team can help me with things. And I very quickly realized, not that I ever thought they weren't, but I very quickly realized that my team were very, very capable, and they're more than happy to step up and help as well. So yeah, that was a good lesson to learn. As a leader, you're there to help direct people, remove roadblocks, and you really need to trust your people, because otherwise, if you are trying to do it all and oversee everything, you're just micromanaging at that point, and your team don't want to be micromanaged. So, speaking about micromanaging, my second point is that everyone needs to be managed differently. Now, This is something I feel quite strongly about. It ties into the process communication model, or PCM for short, which I'm a certified trainer in as well. And this is all about personality styles and understanding different people's communication styles and preferences, how they perceive the world and what they're like when they are stressed out. And this was something that intuitively I always had a bit of a feeling for. I knew that people were different and needed different things, and I've always interacted with people that way. But it wasn't until I went through PCM as a model that I fully understood the why behind that. So the short version is that we're all made up very differently. We all have these different energies inside of us, and we all have preferences for how we prefer to be communicated to, how we prefer to be managed, what our motivations in life are. There are a bunch of different factors. And so those things mean that every different person on your team has something different that they're looking for out of an interaction and out of their work. So if I'm speaking to one person one way and then speak to another person the exact same way, they're going to potentially take that conversation or that interaction very differently. So management and communicating with people can't be a blanket thing. Everyone is very, very different, and I'm sure you've had experiences with this as well, where someone's spoken to you and you don't like the way that they've communicated to you. It might not be that they've communicated to you in a way that they meant any harm, and that's the thing. Often people don't mean anything bad by it, but if you're communicating to someone, it's like you have two walkie-talkies. If you've got your walkie-talkie programmed to a certain channel and then the other person's got theirs programmed to a different channel, then a little bit of static might come through, but the actual full message isn't going to come through properly. And that's what PCM teaches you, and how you actually need to learn to adapt to all these different personality and communication styles. So that was really good to confirm all of that learning for me. But it's my biggest tip is that if you're leading people, is that you can't just blanket communicate with everyone the same way. Obviously, there are going to be instances where you have team meetings and things like that where you're communicating to a group of people at once, and you will naturally communicate in your own preferred communication style and those kind of instances usually. And for the most part, it's going to be fine in those kind of things. But when you're one-on-one communicating with team members, you'll start to get a feel for, okay, this person doesn't really need the fluff. They just want me to let them know the information, the due date, and they'll go away and do the work, and they will come back to me if they have any questions. Whereas this person over here, they like having a little bit more of a chat about their family or what they did on the weekend. And then after a little bit of that conversation and getting that relationship building, then we can talk a little bit about business, but we kind of need to keep it light. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. There are quite a few different personality styles. And so I would just say, if you're not in a position to do some kind of personality training or courses, then just try and tune into what your team are giving you, because the easiest way to pick up on this is to essentially mirror back what someone is giving to you energy-wise, style of communication. So if they're asking you a lot of questions, they might prefer to be asked questions back and have more of that back and forward kind of relationship. If they're just tell me exactly what you need from me, then literally just tell them what you want them to do and leave them to go and do it. So you can pick up on this naturally if you just consciously switch that hearing on. So that's my biggest tip. If you're going to take anything away from this episode, it would be that. The next one is that you can't be everyone's friend, especially not all of the time, and that is okay. This, I think, is one of the things that trips new managers up, especially if you're managing a small team. You want to be liked, but you can't seek validation from your team. Yes, obviously you want your team to enjoy working with you, and there are going to be people on your team that you have a good relationship with. You can be approachable, you can be warm, you can be someone your team likes as a leader, But there are going to be times where you have to have harder conversations with people, and that can get uncomfortable when you feel like you're their friend. It makes those conversations harder for you. It can sometimes blur the lines for them. So I would just say, keep in mind that when you need to have serious conversations, you sort of need to switch modes a little bit, and it doesn't mean that you can't be friendly with them. You can very much still care deeply about them, but just make sure that you're sort of in manager mode when you need to be as well. Otherwise, that will get confusing for your team. And yet, don't seek validation from them. Your job as a manager is to be that strong person to give them the feedback, the good and the bad feedback. You're not seeking feedback from them. So it can be a little bit thankless at times, but yeah, that's not your team's job to give you that. It's your job to give them that. Sort of carrying on from this, I suppose this is one of the more negative things that I'm going to talk about today, and that's that people will forget. They'll forget how good they've got it. And I want to be really careful here, because this isn't going to be an everyone thing, and it's not going to be an inevitable thing that, it won't happen for every single person, and it's not going to happen frequently, but it does happen. And no one sort of prepares you for that, because usually as a leader, you are putting a lot of heart and soul into what you're doing. You do end up, regardless whether you like it or not, you end up caring about your people, and you want the best for them, and it's your job to provide a good working environment and support your team. And there's a lot of trust involved, and your team will appreciate that. But over time, people will just get comfortable in what they're in. And so, if you're a business and you offer your workers lots of benefits and extras, I don't know what those might be, like if you offer that they get birthday leave and they get this amazing fancy kitchen in the office, or, whatever benefits it is that you're potentially offering. Those things are amazing novelties when team members start, and then they get normal and they just become this baseline that's like a given. Oh, yep, well, I'm entitled to that. And again, this is not everyone. This is a bit of an odd, every now and again thing, but it does happen. So this is just a warning that does happen, that people get used to that. People will always expect more as well. And, good on them for expecting more. Obviously, we all want to grow, have bigger and better roles, things, but it's just something that you need to be prepared for as a manager, that you might feel like you're doing so much already, and then people are going to still turn around and ask you for more, and potentially forget about previous things that you've been flexible on, or whatever it is. And it's just something that you can't control, but being aware of it does help. Now, my next one kind of goes back to one that I have spoken about with, that you can't always be friends with your team, and you can't be friends with them all the time. And that is that hard conversations don't get easier if you avoid them. The longer that you leave them, the worse they're actually going to get. And I think this is a very common mistake that new managers will make. Something will come up, like a performance issue, or a behavioral thing, whatever it is, and instead of dealing with it, they kind of just hope that it will resolve itself. And even if it does, that's fine. But if you haven't acknowledged that with that team member, then it's likely that they're not aware that that thing wasn't okay. So it's also about that and holding them accountable to be better as well. Yeah. So if it does, best case scenario, if you aren't going to acknowledge it, the team member does, or whatever the situation is, resolves itself, but then that team member isn't aware, hasn't been acknowledged to them, that they've acted this way or whatever happened. And worst case scenario is that it doesn't resolve itself and it actually just spirals and gets worse. So both of those outcomes really are not ideal. And if there is a problem, especially if it's like a behavioral thing or it's impacting other team members, then resentment builds either with the team member themselves that there's some kind of issue with, or, if they're upset, that resentment's building because you're not speaking to them about it, not trying to solve it or resolve it, or potentially, if someone's acted in a bad way and other team members have seen that and they know that it's just been swept under the rug, then they can also become resentful. This is something that's a little bit of a balancing act, because I've had this with our team before where they will see someone act in a certain way and they don't like it and they don't think it's okay. I will acknowledge it with that team member privately, quickly and privately. That is my top tip for this. But then obviously the other team members don't see that. And so if you know that someone else in your team has been put off or affected by this kind of behavior, then you can just quietly sort of pull them aside as well and just be like, hey, just so you know that this situation has been dealt with, or I've had a conversation with this person. And if you do get any kickback or like, oh, well, can you tell me what happened or anything, I usually just sort of acknowledge, well, like, if it was you, I'm sure you wouldn't want me sharing that with other people or dealing with it in front of everyone. So, I hope you can appreciate that I've dealt with this privately with that person and it's all sorted. Please let me know if anything like that happens again. I can't tell you that the conversations with whoever you need to talk to about whatever situation it is, like that there's an easy way to do that, because it's always uncomfortable when you have to pull someone up on something. But I would say if you do it quickly, you can still, be on their side about it and say, look, this is out of character for you, or, I'm really sad that this happened. How can we get things back on track? Like, there's ways that you can have those conversations nicely still, especially in the beginning stages, because some team members, when you're new to managing them, will try and test you and they'll see what they can get away with. So I think that's why it's really, really important in the beginning, especially, that you do nip things in the bud. Now, one of the last ones I wanted to talk about, I think this is the second to last, is that your team's problems will start to feel like your problems. Because when you lead people, you're the person that people bring their problems to, because, you're the one to help them. So it's going to be not only those wins and those positives, but it's going to be all of their frustrations and challenges. And sometimes it's even personal stuff, and it can feel quite heavy for you to carry all of that. And especially if you're someone that really cares and is quite empathetic, it's very easy to be a sponge and absorb all of those feelings, take it on board like it's your stress or your burden to carry. And that is a lot to hold on to for a team of people. And no one necessarily teaches you how to navigate that and figure it out. But your purpose is to be there to listen to them. A lot of the time, people just want someone to listen to them. They honestly, half of the time, might even come up with a solution themselves. But they need someone to talk to where they actually feel heard. That's the other thing, that, while they're talking to you, if you're very clearly uninterested, or if you're trying to interrupt them every 2 seconds and give them solutions, sometimes that's not what that person needs. Again, this is something that I can't give you a blanket rule book for, because it will depend on a situation. There are going to be times where team members come to you and they've tried to figure it out, and they're actually at the point where they need you to step in and make a decision or problem solve for them. Then there are going to be other times where team members, they do just literally want to talk to you. And, they might even just need to have a rant. And especially if they're interacting with clients of yours or customers, they need a bit of an outlet as well, because obviously you don't want them having these kind of ranty conversations with clients or other team members. So if you can be a safe space for them to just have an honest conversation with as well, then often that is really just what they need. So you're there to listen, to support and care. Yes, help them where you can, but like I was saying in the beginning, every question you don't have to know the answer to every question. Every problem doesn't have to be one that you specifically have to fix. You can put people in touch with other people, or, hey, have you tried talking to this person? Quite often it's just redirection. Then lastly, one that I wanted to finish on is that it's really lonely. And I think that surprises a lot of people. It catches them off guard because, yeah, you're surrounded by people in a management role. But again, you're the one that your team comes to talk to. You are that sponge for everyone. And so where do you go? Who do you talk to? You're in the middle of all of these conversations, these meetings, and yet sometimes it ends up feeling very isolating. Because obviously there are certain conversations you can't have with your team. There are decisions you have to carry alone. There are frustrations that you can't vent to people and your team about. So yeah, everyone talks to you, but who do you talk to? And yeah, I think a lot of people are very unprepared for this. And, even people that have bought franchises, they might think that they get more support than they really do when it comes down to it with having those human, raw conversations. So I would say, especially if if you've got a business partner, then that's great. You can bounce things off of each other. But if you own a business by yourself, or you're like senior management and you don't really have anyone to talk to, then I would highly, highly recommend either getting a business coach or having some kind of business bestie. So if you know someone else, like a friend that also owns a business or is in a similar role to you, then I would try and, tee up some kind of regular catch-up meeting with them, and just bounce things off of each other and be able to have some of those more raw conversations. If you don't already have a person like that in your life, then going to something like a networking group where you can meet other people that are in very similar situations to you would be, where you can meet someone like that as well. So yeah, you don't have to do it alone. It might feel lonely at times, but even if you don't have a business partner, then there are definitely options for you to talk to people who get it. So there you have it. Things that I would tell every manager before they started, or every leader before they started in leadership. And nobody gets it perfect. Leadership's one of those things, like it's a constant learning journey. So do enjoy the journey and do watch yourself go through those milestones. And when you deal with a certain situation that you've never dealt with before and it feels like this big, massive thing, versus the next time that thing happens and you know exactly how to deal with it, recognize that growth as well. Because again, that's one of those things, no one else is often going to give you that validation. So if you can give yourself those milestones, some pats on the back for your own growth in the leadership space, because leadership is heavy, it's very hard, it's very rewarding as well. But yeah, it can be a lot. So make sure that you recognize what you're doing well as well. And if you are building up a team and you don't have the systems and processes side of things in there, then we can help you out over at strictlysavvy.co.nz. If you book a call with us, we would love to help you get things in tip-top shape. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Get Savvy podcast.